welcome all of you once again. It's Backpack. I'm talking about Egypt, the cradle of all civilizations. Whenever we talk about history, culture, civilization, talking about ancient Egyptians, there is something very, very important to be mentioned, the concept of building pyramids. Well, definitely we have a lot of things to be discussed in this matter, but first of all, to talk about building pyramids and this concept, we have to start by taking a look at Saqqara Pyramid.
Pyramids tell us about the fabulous lives of great pharaohs who died surrounded by symbols of wealth and privilege. Egypt pharaohs expected to become gods in the afterlife, and to prepare for the next world, they erected temples to the gods and massive pyramid tombs for themselves, filled with all the things each ruler would need to guide and sustain himself in the next world. For centuries, they were the tallest structures on the planet. The pyramids of Giza, built over 4,000 years ago, still stand atop an otherwise flat, sandy landscape. One of the seven wonders of the world. Up till now, people are thinking of how these pyramids were built. How could a civilization that lacked bulldozers, forklifts, and trucks build such massive structures? And what treasures were placed inside these monuments? Pyramids were built for religious purposes. The Egyptians were one of the first civilizations to believe in an afterlife. They believed that a second self called the Ka lived within every human being. When the physical body expired, the Ka enjoyed eternal life. Those fortunate enough to pass the test of Osiris wanted to be comfortable in their lives beyond Earth. The Great Pyramids were simply grand tombs of powerful pharaohs. Three pyramids were built at Giza, and many smaller pyramids were constructed around the Nile Valley. The tallest of the Great Pyramids reaches nearly 500 feet into the sky and spans an area greater than 13 acres. Just thinking about them, Egyptians who ranked high in status often wanted to take their most prized possessions with them in death, so Ka could enjoy them in its next life. Gold, silver, and bronze artifacts were loaded into the interiors of the great tombs. Fine linens and artwork adorned the secret chambers. In the early days, dead nobles were often interned with their living slaves and animals. Because this practice eventually proved too costly, artists instead depicted scenes of human activity on the inside walls. Some pyramids were even equipped with a restroom for the pharaoh. There are no more famous ancient sites within Egypt, or for that matter elsewhere in the world, than the Great Pyramids at Giza. They are without question the icon most associated with Egypt. They have been both the main destination for tourists and a source of imaginative thought to the world for over 3,000 years. There are actually over 100 pyramids in Egypt, many of which are relatively unknown to anyone who is not an ancient Egypt enthusiast. All but a very few are grouped around and near the city of Cairo, just south of the Nile Delta. Otherwise, only one royal pyramid is known in southern Egypt at Abydos, that being the one built by Ahmose, founder of the 18th dynasty and Egypt's new kingdom. The Pyramid Age began with a burst of building, starting with the 3rd dynasty reign of Djoser. Some of the early kings, most specifically Snefru, built more than one pyramid. Almost all of the kings added to their number through the end of the Middle Kingdom, with the possible exception of the first intermediate period between the Old and Middle Kingdoms. After the first pharaoh of Egypt's new kingdom, Ahmose royal pyramid built by Egyptians ceased entirely. Somewhat abruptly, the kings of the new kingdom chose, rather than making their tombs completely obvious, to hide them in the hills of the west bank of Thebes, that is modern Luxor. However, smaller pyramids were constructed, for example, in the Deir el-Medina necropolis, by private individuals. Late period, Nubians who ruled Egypt also built relatively small pyramids with much steeper sides, though these were in fact constructed in Nubia itself. This tradition was carried on in Nubia after these southern rulers lost control of Egypt, and eventually more pyramids were actually built in Nubia than Egypt, though on a much smaller scale. While the pyramids were for the most part tombs for the pharaohs of Egypt, one must nevertheless question the reason that the Egyptian rulers chose this particular shape, and for that matter, why they built them so large. Today, we believe that they chose the shape in order to mimic the Bembem, a pyramid-shaped stone found in the earliest of temples, which itself is thought to symbolize the primeval moon from which the Egyptians believed life emerged. This also connected the pyramid to Ra, the sun god, as it was he, according to some of the ancient Egypt mythology, who rose from the primeval moon to create life. As for the great size of many of the pyramids in Egypt, we can really only surmise that the pharaohs were making a statement about their own power and perhaps about the glory and strength of their country. However, it should also be remembered that many of the later pyramids were not nearly as large as the Great Pyramids at Giza. Pyramids evolved. The first of them was not perfectly formed pyramid. In fact, the first pyramid we believe that was built in Egypt was that of Djoser. Not a true pyramid with smooth sides and point at the top. Rather, its sides were stepped and the top of the pyramid truncated with a flat surface. As the Egyptian pyramids evolved, they got it right with what was probably the first smooth-sided true pyramid built at Middle. Pyramids continued to evolve throughout history, perhaps not only in outward appearance, but in the way they were built and the theology surrounding their construction. Soon after the first pyramids were built, their form became somewhat standardized. Royal pyramid complexes included the main pyramid, a courtyard surrounding the main pyramid, a much smaller cult pyramid for the king's soul, a mortuary temple situated next to the main pyramid, an enclosure wall, and a causeway that led down to a valley temple. Some pyramid complexes included subsidiary, smaller pyramids for family members, and most were surrounded by some sort of tombs for family members. Our thinking on pyramids has evolved considerably over the years. Some mysteries remain, even in some of the best well-known pyramids. The most famous of them, the Great Pyramid of Cheops, that continues year after year to give up a few more secrets, and there doubtless remains much to learn from these Egyptian treasures. There may even be one or more pyramids yet to be discovered.
Well, that was all for our backpack for today. Thank you all for joining us. As you can see, we tried as much as we can to bring you more about Egypt and more about all services and also facilities provided to its holiday makers, those who are really interested to find out and discover Egypt and all about its ancient culture, history, and civilization.